Brian Mudd Show is on News Radio 610 WIOD.
Quentin Brogdon, as he's a legal analyst and expert, and he's joining us now to talk about Zoom, something we've all become quite familiar with during the course of the pandemic. And Quentin, we take a look at some of the developments, including in the legal realm, because this thing's been playing out a lot longer than I think a lot of people planned on, and there's no end in sight. Somewhere along the way, you got to get back on with the business of the legal system. So tell us a little bit about what's now happening in the courtroom with jury trials by Zoom.
Good morning, Brian. Nice to talk to you again. I hope that you and yours are staying safe in these trying times, my friend. We had the first fully online formatted jury trial from voir dire, which is just a fancy lawyer word for jury selection, to verdict in Austin, Texas, just a couple of hours drive from my neck of the woods in Dallas, Texas. And it was a low-risk trial. It was a speeding ticket, the heinous crime of speeding 51 and a 35. No jail or prison time was going to be possible. The defendant, who was a nurse, Callie Carnblow, she agreed to it, so she wasn't forced to do it. And the jury went out, and they kind of split the baby. They found her guilty, but they found she was not speeding in a construction zone. She said she didn't see the signs out in the construction workers, so her fine was not doubled, but she had to pay the great big fine of $50 and some court costs. So it was live cast, I think, on YouTube, and at one point 100,000 people were watching it, which is kind of interesting. And we had, a juror with a cat running around behind her on the screen, and the judge at one point had to admonish another juror, pay better attention. But it's the first fully online jury trial in the state, in the nation, and probably in the world.
Well, Quentin, from your perspective, do you think this is a valid way to move forward with the legal system?
Well, we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. We need to keep the wheels of justice turning, but on the other hand, we don't want to trample on the rights of people, whether it's in a criminal trial or a civil trial where the suit is about money. This was a speeding ticket with no jail or prison time, but if you were on trial for murder where you could go to prison, you would not want to be forced to have your trial on Zoom if you had concerns. There are some constitutional concerns, and we could spend a lot of time talking about that. But your online jury pool is not as diverse because, not everybody has access to high-speed internet and the computers, believe it or not, even today. You can't ensure you have those jurors' undivided attention. And then you lose a lot of in-person chemistries that are important, chemistries between the lawyer and the jurors, the clients and the jurors, the witness and the jurors. And then the jurors, together when they deliberate, there's an important chemistry, and you lose almost all of that on Zoom, I think.
Well, that's a challenge. So do you think that attorneys are actually going to be reconfiguring the way they might present a case to try to activate a jury via Zoom?
Sure. We've had more than 340,000 Zoom hearings in Texas and more than 700,000 hours of virtual courtroom proceedings. So I think, and many think, that, Zoom and doing things by video and internet, that's here with us to stay. Trials have always been different and sacrosanct, if you will. There's something about going down to the courthouse. When you get a bunch of jurors together, something magical happens. And with Corona, it's really hard to social distance. Anybody who's served, gone down for jury duty knows you're elbow to elbow in a big kind of cattle call until you're separated out, in most counties and states at least, to individual courts where you're assigned. So to try and social distance and riding up and down the elevators all at once and, security lines getting into courthouses, it's going to be really, really tough. So it's a sticky wicket, and it's not going to be easy to solve. But I think we're going to see more and more online proceedings, including trials even.
Is there anything different about picking a jury, do you think, that you wouldn't be able to find out via Zoom that you would in person?
You can see and pick up on quite a bit. Think about in your own personal lives. If you're trying to read someone, whether you're deciding whether to go out on a date with them, get married to them, buy a car from them, buy a house, the most important decisions that you make in your life, you really want to see that person, job interview, you want to see that person in person if you can. There are things and clues you pick up on You bond with them in a different way in person. So online is just not the same. Some people say, well, you got a close-up camera. You can see some things you might not see in person. Maybe, but I think that's baloney. I think you need to be in a room with people to really get to know them and really bond with them, and that's an important part of the jury process.
Well, Quentin, thank you very much. Interesting for sure, and appreciate your dissemination of it as well. Quentin Brogdon, be well.
Thanks, Brian. Stay safe.